Came to me.
What do we need it for?
Where is the best place? Where's the best place to say?
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the Personnel, Administration, and Higher Education Committee to order and ask for approval of the minutes from July 29th. Moved by Supervisor Conover, seconded by Supervisor Bramer. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. At this time, I would like to extend privilege of the floor to our a statement from our previous county administrator. Mr. Lehman, I believe he has the statement. There he is.
Hello, did you want me to read that comment now?
Yes, please.
This is sent in by Ryan Moore, former Warren County Administrator. I appreciate the discussion at the ARPA Advisory Committee yesterday about whether I am able to continue to serve on this important committee. Given my recent career change, I do not feel like I can commit the amount of time that is required to continue to serve on this committee. I would ask that the Personnel Committee consider appointing Acting Administrator Craig Leggett to fill my position on the committee and consider appointing either Tricia Rogers from ARCC, Adirondack Regional Chamber of Commerce, or Jim Siplon from Warren County EDC to fill the ARPA committee position left vacant by the departure of former ARCC President Michael Biddle. I would suggest this be done as quickly as possible so those appointments could be confirmed at the next Board of Supervisors meeting to allow the ARPA Advisory Committee to continue to do its important work. Respectfully, Ryan Moore.
Okay.
That's the end of it.
Thank you, Don. Okay, we'll move on with the action agenda. And the first item on the action agenda is a referral from the Tourism Committee, chaired by Supervisor Merlino. And it's a request to appoint Mr. Alfred Snow as Director of Tourism.
I'll bring it forward for consideration.
Okay, move forward by Supervisor Conover. Do we have a second?
I'll make the second.
Seconded by Supervisor Frazier. Discussion. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
2 opposed. Okay,
What was that?
You only have 3 in favor.
Right.
You have to have a- majority of this form.
Okay.
So you only have 3.
okay, so a motion fails.
Oh, my God. Oh,
Alrighty. So we'll move on to item number 2. Items to be discussed by the County Administrator, Craig Leggett, Acting County Administrator, and it's a request for out-of-unit 2022 interim rate increase to follow the CSEA interim rate increase effective August 1st, 2022.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What you have before you here are spreadsheets. It's very fine print. Hope you can read them. And this takes into account all non-bargaining unit employees and the totals of what the extra expense is. This is along the lines of following with what was done for the in-unit CSEA folks that the board had approved a couple of weeks ago. I would turn it over to Tammy for any other additional comments or questions.
Do we have a motion to get this on the floor? Moved by Supervisor Conover, seconded by Supervisor Bramer. Discussion, questions?
So is this separate from the CSEA, $2.75?
Yes, it's the same increase.
No, is it separate from the CSEA, which
Yeah.
we negotiated for $2.75? This is a separate list.
Yes, this is the non-bargaining unit.
And this isn't the retention list that we've discussed before about about giving a bonus to all the employees that came during the COVID. So this is up and above that.
I don't know if it's up and above that.
Well, it's a separate list. It's not the retention list. You just said that, so, thank you.
So the non-unit people. Yes.
Thanks, Chairman. At the last, when we brought this up at the last meeting, I had asked for all the electeds to be removed. And I can't really read the list, but I do see that there's possibly one or two. And all my apologies to the treasurer, who I think was on the list before. Oh, no, I don't see him there now.
Yeah.
Oh, you are on it?
Yeah, you gotta look on the first page.
Oh. I really needed my magnifying glass today.
The thinking behind here is that all non-unit employees get put on, and that is before the committee to review. You have all the numbers before you for your decision making.
You can't read the total amount.
Yes, Supervisor Connell.
Yeah, I mean, just a continuation of discussion from the discussion when we acted on the CSEA. I'm sure it's clear to everybody at that time that, we'll say 900 employees, whatever the actual FTE number is, that in the end, that's how many would be requesting the adjustment. I believe we've received letters from all the other bargaining units asking for the same consideration. Some round numbers were discussed at that time as to what the impact would be this year or what the impact would be next year. And I think we should expect anything different going forward. But again, that was just a continuation of discussion.
Supervisor Beatty.
Yeah, I'm all favor of some type of retention compensation. But bonuses for directors that are making $75,000, $85,000 a year compared to a CSEA individual making $30,000 or $35,000, I don't think is in the same ballpark. So if we want to have a serious discussion on retention bonuses for people who worked through the COVID, I'd be all ears and be willing to entertain that. But I think these are two separate issues, and henceforth, I can't support this. But like I said, I can be open to retention bonuses of those who worked through the COVID, are still on board. I applaud their efforts. But this to try to lump directors and so forth making $85,000 a year to somebody making 35 or 30, I just don't think is the same ballpark. It's a whole separate issue to me, and that's why I can't support this particular issue.
These are not bonuses. This is pay increase. This is a pay.
Same thought process.
Well, not really, because a bonus is a one-time kind of thing.
My position is the same thought process.
Okay, that's fine. Part of the reasoning, if I may, is that as we raised the salaries and the pay for CSEA, it pushed them up against a lot of people that are in the non-unit bargaining to where there's not the separation that there was. That's part of the reasoning. Yes, Supervisor Bramer.
Thank you. I support pay increases, especially for our people at the lowest, like the $35,000 range and that sort of thing. And I do see some of those in this list. Maybe if we could have the list sorted by salary, because there are also people in here who are in the 90,000s, and I don't think that they necessarily need a pay bump right at this point. Let's wait and do their performance evaluation.
Supervisor Conover.
I believe the CACA adjustment was applied to all members of the bargaining unit, regardless of position, regardless of pay scale. But I'll stand corrected on that, but I believe I'm correct. I see that assistant administrator shaking her head yes. So I'm just would make that as a point of fact that it was applied to all active CSCA members. Now, if supervisors wish to adjust their thinking going forward, that's you're certainly welcome to do that, and I understand that. But I just wanted as a point of reference to say that it applied to all active. And I think what you're going to find is that the other unions are going to want the same application. They're going to want it applied to all active members. So I'm having a difficult time understanding how, I mean, so is what you're saying is that you're thinking as it applies to all the other bargaining units is going to be different, that you're not going to want the adjustment applied to all bargaining unit members of the other unions. You're only going to want it applied to some of their membership. Is that what I'm hearing from you?
Supervisor Bramer.
My understanding is this is a group of people who are not in a bargaining unit. These are our appointeds. These are, I'm going to say special.
Non-union.
They're non-union.
Non-union.
Yeah, I'm not saying what you're saying about other unions. These are non-union people who, our county attorney's in there. We just hired him at a particular rate that he and us bargained for. We negotiated over that. Why give him a raise already? I guess I shouldn't laugh about that, but seriously, in all seriousness, no, to your question, no, I don't. I would think that all the other bargaining units would be treated the same way that the CSEA bargaining unit was treated. These are not in a bargaining unit.
Supervisor Beatty.
In the spirit of compromise, I would go along with Supervisor Bramer's suggestion that we separate this out and be a little more finite instead of broad brushing this. Employees making $90,000 just hired and this and that, and then saying, oh, by the way, we're going to give you even more now. It doesn't ring, doesn't hold the same weight as someone at 30,000 or 35,000. So if you want to go back and do some more work on this, I maybe would entertain some things, but I want it separated out from the dollar amounts. What number were you looking at, Supervisor Bramer?
I'm not sure, but I think it would be super easy if this is in an Excel sheet to sort that column by salary. And then we can say, okay, here's a good division point. Also, I know that there are probably going to be probably people at the top who say, well, that's not quite enough now that you've bumped the CSEA people right up against me.
Well,
I think we're going to have to take a closer fine-tuned look at these,
I agree. So if
some of these.
I'd support more work on this. I think it's a little premature, and I'd like to see more defined work on this.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
administrator's office could come up with that if we had solid direction.
Supervisor Conover.
So if I understand what you're saying is that you believe that the adjustment should apply to all bargaining units and all members of bargaining units, except as it relates to non-bargaining units, that it should not apply to all individuals, that you wish to call that list down to some number other than all. And so I guess at this point, I would say I'm uneasy with that, but I look forward to seeing the list that you call it down to. I'm willing to look at it. I'm not sure, what I think about it, but I think once you've presented that at committee, I'd be happy to take a look at it.
I'd be happy to work with Tammy and Craig on that. Put something together.
Okay.
We'll leave everyone in the list and we'll just,
I think it'd be more appropriate if it came directly as a resolution out of committee.
I agree. And we have a resolution on the floor, so to approve as is. So I'll call the question on that one. And to approve what is before us. All in favor? I'm in favor of.
I'm in favor of it.
Opposed?
Opposed?
Okay, so what's the committee want to do? What's the cutoff point for our employees? Who gets a raise and who doesn't? Yes,
I'd like to make a motion that I be allowed to work with Tammy to come up with a list and present it to the committee at the next meeting.
Second that.
so we have a motion and a second discussion. Yes, Mr. Treasurer.
I just would like to, in my department, because of the CSEA raise, I have 2 people that are supervising CSEA people that are now making less than the people that they're supervising. So, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't go through this list, but I've just got to be very cognizant of that fact too, that because of the bump that was given to the CSEA, some of those people are now making more than their supervisors.
That's
And-
several departments.
Yes, that there's several departments like that. So that's, you know, and I mean, and that's not fair to the person who was outside of the bargaining unit.
You can do it in strikes.
Through this, sure that those type of things are addressed.
Yes, Tammy.
Yeah, just to confirm, we've had, I know that acting administrator Leggett's been meeting with departments, and that's what he's hearing from department heads as well. I know the same situation exists in health services. The nursing supervisors are making less than their nurses. The nurses are eligible for overtime as out of unit, as in unit people. In the DA's office, I know they're holding a unit position open because someone that moved out of the
Just a link.
in because they didn't get an increase. So this is creating issues, and it's across the spectrum. It's not just the lower paid, you know, I say lower paid out of unit. It is all across the spectrum of the out of units.
Thank you. You had something, Mr. Supervisor Beatty?
Well, yeah, so, that's why we need more finite, a lot more work done. It's totally agree.
Okay.
So we go forward.
Yes, County.
Well, I'm just thinking that it'd probably be handy to have a few more people from the personnel committee, if it's to come back to the personnel committee. This is a timely function. We started the CSEA retroactive to August 1st. This proposal would have been also back to August 1st. We are on August 10th right now. Pay period is coming up next week. So there's the more the merrier, let's just say from the personnel committee. I would like to see the discussion for this be in committee because it concerns all finances. Administration will then take it on and crunch all the numbers. Tammy has spent countless hours on this already, coming up with these figures, and we can, since it's all in there, we can adjust accordingly. But this is really a committee's responsibility.
Yep. Yes, Supervisor Merlino.
If you notice, Mr. Wild is on the YouTube right now.
Yes, I did notice it.
It's possible that he should be able to get in on the vote for this.
The votes already been taking place.
Good morning, Supervisor Wild.
Oh, there's Deb.
Maybe not. Maybe it's not a good morning.
Chairman,
Yes, Supervisor.
could we throw the spreadsheet up on the screen? We want to work through a committee,
Where's that? I think it's right there.
Sure. I don't know if we can or not. I can't.
Mr. Chairman?
Is that true? I can't see that.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thanks. I'm going to try to mute my Zoom, my other Zoom, or leave the meeting. So I was doing it on my phone as well as in Craig's office. So I'm here with Supervisor Runyon also. So I'm not sure what transpired earlier. But if I can make a motion to bring back the tourism director. Discussion.
Well, currently, we're talking about the pay increases for non-union employees. And,
Okay.
and we had a vote to pass what was presented before us, and that failed. And now we're discussing at what salary, which employees are worthy of a pay raise and which aren't. So that's where we're at.
So that's done. The tourism director is done.
No, you can bring it back.
Well, at this point, right now
Right.
we're working on this. We can
Okay,
probably.
but I can bring it back when this discussion is over with, just for clarity, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So I don't know if we can put this on the screen. Okay, sorry. I'll tell you my feelings as budget officer and as personnel chair is that they should all be getting this increase.
Mine too.
Mine also.
That's Supervisor Khan.
Well, I also offered my feelings at the last meeting and they were not taken into consideration.
Speaking.
You know, we had this discussion, now we're revisiting it. The all of our employees are graded and have a certain salary structure. We, whether we realize it or not, are in the process of adjusting that this year. And that was approved by the board. And we all knew that the other unions would be wanting the same. And oh, by the way, the longer we delay what we're doing here, another issue comes in terms of what the controller is going to think about retroactivity. I seem to remember an issue recently where there was an issue with retroactivity. So at what point that becomes an issue, I'll leave to the treasurer in terms of his discussions with the state controller's office. So that's where we are. Now, when you affect some and not others, and I assume there's just a few that you wish to take off the list because you feel that the position's already paid enough, or that it's paid too much, or it's whatever it said. But that position has existed at that grade and at that salary, whether new or old, for some time now. Now, when let's just take the $2,500, and I'll talk to it generically. When you take that out of someone, hey, what you're saying is over the next 10 years, that you're taking that amount times 10 years, plus any adjustments going forward out of that employee's salary, out of their household income. Let me say that again. You're taking that $2,500 times 10 years of income times any contractual adjustments going forward. What do you think the contractual adjustments are going to be over the next 10 years? That's the amount of money that you're now taking out of that employee's household income. And I might add, you're also affecting their retirement. So I just want you to understand that when you begin to be a cherry pick that schedule, that the result of that there are implications relative to the result of that. Now, we've had this discussion. We understand there's going to be a big financial challenge next year. Some supervisors choose to not want to address that right now. I understand it's a difficult thing to address. I just want you to understand that when you do that, it's not $2,500. It's not $2,500. It's a whole lot more than that. to that employee, to that position and that employee and that household income going forward. And I believe everything I've just stated is factually correct. I see the treasurer shaking his head yes. So just be cognizant of that. That's all I'm saying to you. This person's already making too much, or this person makes enough, boom. Well, the moment you do that, you've delivered a very serious financial implication for that employee, that position, and that household income, and maybe even their retirement. Because the retirement is based upon an average of their salary. And that's what they carry into their retirement years. Put that out there. Thank you.
Supervisor Bramer.
Thank you. It's my understanding that the highest paid CSEA person is somewhere in the 70s. My proposal would be to remove off this list everyone over 80,000. And I get what you're saying about long-term consequences for the family. I think most of these people above 80,000 they have good jobs, they have good paying jobs, and a $2,000 not raise at this point is not going to make or break their family household income. If there are people who after this think they need a bigger raise, they can come to us and ask for a raise. That's happened mid-year or right now in the budget season as we're going through department head budgets. And I also would like to remove the county clerk and the county treasurer and any other electeds. And I would amend my current motion to make that the proposal.
Okay, so we have a motion to those parameters, 80,000, and remove the electeds.
Since I didn't second the other one to this amendment, then I'd second that.
Seconded by Supervisor Beatty. Further discussion? Yes, Mr. Conover.
Yeah, I mean, I'm forced to have to vote no. The reason I'm going to vote no is it's just totally arbitrary. It's just a totally arbitrary application of whatever metrics somebody's applying. So you're going to apply, let me just ask, so you're going to apply this metric to all other bargaining units? And that's my first question. And my second question is, you're also going to apply this metric to include gross pay, including overtime pay? Some of these positions get significant overtime pay. Exactly how are you applying this metric? So to all other bargaining units, including whatever, police, corrections, whatever it is, you're going to apply the same metric. Is that, am I hearing that correctly? And that metric is, does it apply to total income? Does it apply to, like, how are you applying it?
Mr. Chairman,
Supervisor Wild.
thank you. I just want to let you know I'm prepared to vote no on the amendment.
So am I.
Any other discussion? Jackie, I noticed you had just moved your arm there.
Thank you. I just, I think it's important to consider from an administrative standpoint that we have a structure that we set the compensation by, similar to CSEA, where each position falls into a grade with similar positions and then their increments. So essentially in the CSEA increase, the table was changed, the wage table. So if you were a grade 7, step 10, the table changed, but you're still grade 7, step 10. I think the thought process administratively for those of us who work in this world was that the table that we use to set the out of unit pay would be similarly affected. So my concern would be if everybody right now falls into an out of unit grade and increment, and based on performance, you move an increment during budget time based on your evaluation. If we have some arbitrary line, I'm just concerned that we're kind of blowing up our existing structure where, you know, these 10 positions were out of unit grade 15, but now because we drew a line, they're not in the same grade anymore, if that makes sense. So I think we have to be aware of the impacts of any decision on the existing salary structure that we've all been working so hard on getting to the point that it's at currently. I just want everybody to be aware of that as well.
Yes, Tammy.
Just to piggyback, I'm sorry, I think there's a mic under me. Just to piggyback on what Jackie just said, I think that would have the effect of having everybody increase like a grade.
Right.
That under the line. So everybody under the line goes up a grade, those above the line would stay where they are. So again, there's a reason why that structure was created and that we were kind of try to put some science behind the salary schedule.
Yes.
Yet no proposal has been put forward to us to increase the salary schedule itself. It's just these people and these dollar figures.
But
So,
that would move the whole schedule.
so fine, then we should have been having a proposal to move say, under my proposal, let's say everyone above grade 18 does not get this increase.
And would that bump up the grade 17s to fall into this equivalent of a grade 18?
Why are we moving their grades? I don't understand what you're saying.
We're not moving the grades.
Fine,
We're,
fine.
we're moving the
Let's just
pay.
take a vote on this, Chairman, because it's clearly not going to pass now that we have these people on.
You got it.
Okay, any other discussion? Yes, Janelle.
So I've had a lot of technical difficulties, so I've missed a lot. But where I left off, it appeared that you wanted to take a certain dollar amount for the addition of the 275 and not go over that. I currently have some discrepancies, as Tammy already mentioned. But I also, should the people that are making under 80 get moved up, they're then going to affect my assistant directors. So I find that problematic. I don't care about a raise for myself. I'll tell you that my assistant director has been here. Everybody knows all the COVID. And to just get forgotten about one more time is not acceptable. And I do agree with Supervisor Conover's statement about going backwards being illegal. I just want to be sure that we don't miss an opportunity for the people in my department to get paid.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right, on the proposal to put the line at $80,000 and remove the electeds, I'll call the question. All in favor? Nobody.
I am in favor.
Somebody should be in favor of it. Opposed?
Opposed?
Opposed.
Motion fails. Okay. We've covered both items, so unless somebody wants to do something here, yes, Mr. Treasurer.
Just on the retroactive thing, we can do retroactive pay for, and the problem with that was creating a position retroactively to pay. Okay, so because we've done this before with union contracts that have gone a year and a half in negotiations before they get settled. So, I mean, not that it's an ideal situation, and my payroll people will be kicking me when I get back to the office, but we can do retroactive back to August 1st further down the line. Right? I just want to make sure that everybody understands that.
Mr. Conover?
I move that we accept the proposal as originally submitted for non-union employees.
Okay, we have a motion to accept the proposal as it's in the agenda.
I did second that before, and I will second it again for discussion. I think we should be doing something.
Okay. And that's seconded by Supervisor Bramer.
I again would like to make a motion to amend that to remove all of the electeds.
Just did.
We have a motion on the floor to accept what's before us, and we have a proposal to amend that motion to remove the electeds. Do we have a second to that amendment to the first motion? Can we do that? Or would-
An amendment was being offered.
Yep.
Is there a second? to the amendment?
We did already vote on this.
Mr. Chairman, we've already voted on it. Now we're going to vote on the exact same thing again? I mean, how many times do we keep voting on it? 3, 4, 5? Is there a number?
Oh, seeing as how we got two more,
They weren't here at the time of the vote, though.
but the meeting hasn't ended, has it?
Well, I didn't know that we can keep voting on the same issue over and over and over again until we get the amount of people we want. That's news to me.
Oh, stop.
Oh, they're legitimate members of this committee and
And they
they
weren't here when
arrived
the-
and the meeting is
Here
still
when the
going
vote was-
on, so
they
I don't
weren't
see
here
the
when vote
problem.
Was taken.
Do we want to amend the motion? Are you okay with that? If-
I'm not going to second a motion to amend, but
Okay.
I do have a question if there should be a second.
Okay, well, then if there's no second, then we'll move on to discussion of the proposal that's before the committee. For the second time.
And my position, unless I hear otherwise, an argument otherwise, is that I think one size fits all. If the other unions advance their proposals, I think you're going to have salaries up and down the range. And I think, and then we all knew that when we made the original CSEA adjustment, or should have known when we made the CSEA adjustment and to our salary schedule. And I have nothing more to say at this time.
Okay, any other discussion? If not, I'm going to call the question. All in favor of the proposal that's in the agenda?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi,
Opposed?
Oh,
I'm abstaining.
Okay, we have one opposition and one abstention. Okay,
I do have another item, Chairman.
Supervisor Thomas, it's Andrea. Can I just make one comment?
yes, you may.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. I really don't want to hear anybody from this Board of Supervisors make any negative comments about our ability to zoom in from this point forward, as long as it remains legal. Given today's proceedings.
Well, it wouldn't have been any different if they'd have walked in the room, in my opinion.
Agreed, but some of us have been taking some criticisms for zooming in and
Okay.
I just would like it to, that criticism to end now. Thank you.
I have a different matter, but on
Okay.
that note, if you don't mind, Chairman, there is a law, a state law that allows us to offer video conferencing capabilities in the future once the state of emergency ends, and our county has refused to take that up, and I find it very disconcerting that we would not allow our board members the flexibility to be able to zoom in under extraordinary circumstances, like what my colleague from Thurman is having to go through right now. I find that very upsetting, and I've asked before, and I would ask again that we refer that to the Legislative and Rules Committee to take it up.
Yeah, that's an issue before that committee, so you
I think that they've denied it.
should come to that committee and complain.
Okay, I will. The other item is, there is a sheet of paper about the proposal for changing the ARPA committee members, and I would like to move that forward.
Well, I guess I don't have that proposal before me, so.
Mr. Chairman, this is Mike. Would you mind, I do have a conflict. I'm in the middle of a conflict, but I took time to join this committee meeting. I would really like to go back to the tourism discussion if we might, and have another vote. And I'd like to have a motion brought forward from myself to reintroduce the tourism director resolution and see if we can have a vote once we get a second.
All right, I'll entertain that motion and we'll get to the ARPA in a moment, as seen. So I just seen it, so.
Second.
So we have a motion by Supervisor Wild to appoint Alfred Snow as Director of Tourism. We have a second by Supervisor Conover. Discussion. Mr. Conover.
Yeah, I just would like to thank Gene and really everyone that's been involved in this process. Gene, we continue to appreciate your experience.
Can hear you, Ron.
Yes, Supervisor Merlino.
So on the comment, this is a.
Excuse me, point of order. No one can hear you guys at the back.
Yeah, come to the,
Please come to the thing.
I'll get to the mic. Thank you.
You shouldn't even be talking right now. Open
I
meetings
have
law
the
says
right to
that other
talk.
people who are
I
not on
have
the
the
committee
right to
should not
talk.
be talking.
There's some
Kramer?
people in this organization that are
direct your
stymieing.
comments up here.
Why are we just stymieing this tourism department? We've been fighting for 4 months to get a director. We have one that was approved by the board. And because certain people don't want to vote on it, not because they're against it, because they're against me, and I know that's the reason, you people have to do this. And we have to stand together and get this done. This gentleman's been waiting 4 months. We don't want to lose him and have to start all over again. And this is just a personal thing that they're being voted against. I think they should move forward, just like what all these other ladies saying. We can't have a few people stymieing this county.
Supervisor Bramer.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm not going to make any personal comments about any of my colleagues. I try very hard, as I mentioned at the board meeting, to make the best decision I can, and I do not try to take these things personally, especially not against my colleagues on the board. My colleague from Lake Luzerne is incorrect. I am not voting no to this particular candidate because of some personal thing I have against you. I have no personal thing against you. I do not think that this is the best candidate. I don't. I haven't for months, and I wish we had a better candidate, but we don't. I am not here today to stop this process. I am here to exercise my vote to say no. And I did that earlier in this meeting, and I will do it again without any further comments about the applicant.
Mr. Chairman, I've heard all these debates. I'm prepared to vote now.
Okay, yes, Supervisor
We're
Beatty.
still in the discussion phase. I'd like to ask the parliamentarian, is it normal protocol to re-vote on the exact same thing over and over again?
I'm the parliamentarian to the chair, not to the board. The chair makes the decision.
To the chair of the
The
committee?
parliamentarian serves to give advice to the chair of the committee or the board.
So I'll ask the chair of the committee, is it to ask the parliamentarian, is this the normal process to reopen, keep voting on the same thing that you voted on in the same committee?
And my response to that will be that this committee was not adjourned. We had two members that are legitimate members of this committee came into the room, zoomed in, whatever you want to say. We're still in session. So whatever comes before the personnel committee can be entertained.
So you're saying, Mr. Chairman, we can revisit any vote over and over and over again as many times as we like. Is that what you're saying?
I believe we probably could, yes.
So
Sure.
Seems like here it's already been voted on the question of considering this individual for the tourism director job. It was voted down before. To bring it back up now, I think this is what we would call a motion to renew. We're kind of getting into the Roberts Rules of Order. If we're getting away from the specifics and the rules of the Board of Supervisors for this, getting into some of the nitty gritty where we have to turn to Roberts rules for the answer on it. This looks like a motion to renew. A motion to renew can be brought up, but it has to have something a little different. You can't just bring up the exact same motion without something different. There has to be some new information that wasn't available before when the members of the committee voted on it, or some other exception like this. The motion for the same motion to a given motion cannot be renewed at the same session unless there is a change in wording or circumstances sufficient to present substantially a new question, in which case this becomes technically a different motion. Now, it can be brought up again at a future meeting, at another meeting, but we're in the same meeting, same session in which this was voted down before.
Mr. Beatty.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is the exact same motion being brought up again. So if I'm hearing the county attorney correctly, it can be brought up in the next meeting, but this motion has already been voted on and nothing's changed. Motion about the tourism director.
I don't think that's correct.
Well, no one asked you, Mr. County Administrator. I was
Wait a minute
talking
now.
to excuse me. I was
Mr.
talking to
Chairman,
the county
No,
attorney.
you direct your comments right to me.
Okay, so I was talking to the county attorney, but what has changed? The wording is still the same. He just read that the wording has to change. Motion has to change. Nothing has changed. At least as far as I know.
Mr.
Somebody
Chairman,
enlighten me then. Nothing's changed on that motion that was already voted on. It's still the exact same motion.
Yes.
Could we have the wording of the motion that was approved or that did not pass earlier?
Yeah, I think it's right on the agenda. That was. Right, I read it from the agenda, so.
Mr. Chairman, I might be able to revise that motion and add the words basically to the effect that because the tourism industry is so important to the economic viability of Warren County and the residents of Warren County, it behooves Warren County to approve Alfred Snow as the tourism director as soon as possible.
Different than the original motion.
I'd like to ask the county attorney, Mr. Chairman, if that's acceptable.
It's right here on the agenda. That was the original.
The motion is just simply the request. to
And
approve.
I think that's arbitrary of whether that's that type of verbiage.
Mr. Chairman, also, this to me, if you don't mind.
So my understanding is it's my decision, so I will let this motion come forward.
Actually,
Yes.
I'll second it.
Supervisor. Supervisor Dickinson.
Chairman, I'm gonna make the same point of order I did before. No one can hear when you're not talking at the mic.
Really?
No, I'm sorry, not you, sir. Mr. Dickinson, if he's going to make a comment, he's not on the committee. We've
Yeah,
been-
well, that's never been a problem in this
I understand, but
county,
maybe
so
we
it's not a
should,
problem today.
may I finish? We were advised only a few weeks ago by our Amanda, I'm sorry, clerk of the board, about trying to do a better job of not having non-committee members speaking during our discussions. They may speak during privilege of the floor.
Mr. Dickinson.
I just want to say that the change in the resolution is a good one. I have during this meeting received phone calls and texts from business people in Lake George supporting this resolution and very upset that it didn't pass. So it is significant.
Mr. Chairman, so I
We have a motion put forth by Supervisor Wild and I believe seconded by Supervisor Frazier. Mr. Conover. Okay. Any other discussion on the motion put forth by Mr. Wild? I call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
opposed.
No.
Okay, we're back to the ARPA appointees.
Mr. Chairman, that passed, correct?
Yes, it did.
Then the next step, if you don't mind, since you're also finance, is that have to go through your committee also?
Decent. No, it does not, because we're not changing the salary.
And just one other question, does it have to go in front of the full board?
Yes.
Okay. And I just think, trying to delay this for 1 month is just obstructionism because they know there's enough votes to make this happen at the full board as well as this committee when it's fully staffed. So I just find this truthfully to be a waste of time. And Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to bow out. I have another obligation.
Yes, Supervisor Bramer.
I'm sorry that my colleague thinks that debate and dialogue is a waste of time. I think that's what I'm here for. In any event, I would like to make the motion that is presented on the piece of paper that came out of the ARPA committee yesterday.
Okay,
Thank you. I'll make that a motion.
so. Okay. You want to state exactly what that motion is?
I'm sorry, Chairman.
Because I see we have 2 vacant positions, but you're, what came out of the ARPA committee? You want to state exactly what
Sure,
that is?
yes. Yes, we had been holding off on appointing someone to replace Mr. Biddle until they had appointed his replacement, and that is Tricia Rogers, their prior vice president. She's been promoted to president to Mr. Biddle's position. So the ARPA committee voted to put Ms. Rogers there. And we also voted that we would keep Mr. Moore on as our person. Just, he would no longer be county administrator. He'd be a member of the public if he wished to serve. He has indicated that he does not wish to serve. And so the committee said that our position would be that we would just simply delete that position then, that member, and we would go down to 10. I'm sorry, 11, whatever it is. 2, 3, 4.
Okay. So that's your motion is to,
That was the motion that came out of ARPA. We took
Has-
2 separate votes, and that is my motion today, yes.
has Ms. Rogers been contacted?
I have contacted her. I have not been able to confirm with her whether she wants to serve, but I will do that before Friday.
So we're appointing somebody to a position that we're not sure if they want to even be on the committee. Okay. All right, that's your motion. We have a second. Seconded by
This is what the ARPA committee decided yesterday, so, yeah.
Supervisor Beatty. Discussion on this proposal. Yes. Mr. Conover.
Yeah, I think I would be more comfortable filling Mr. Moore's position. And I think the person that should fill that position is Mr. Craig Lake. And I think that would maintain a better balance on the committee. It certainly isn't going to hurt in any way. I don't see why there should be any major issue with appointing the acting county administrator to the committee. Anyone who can bring experience and knowledge and their own time and energy to the position is a good thing. So I would like to see this amended and I propose an amendment to fill Mr. Moore's position with the acting county administrator, Mr. Craig Leggett.
Okay, we have a proposal to amend the resolution put forward. Supervisor Bramer. You moved the motion.
Yeah, I've been working, but I'm on a Zoom right now.
You're in a Zoom meeting? Can you figure that out? Can't even read it.
No, I don't want to amend my motion to that effect. We discussed it at the committee.
All right. Any other discussion on the proposed resolution? Yes, Mr. Beatty.
Yeah, we discussed this in length at ARPA yesterday. We always want to believe that the committee, we should follow the committee's leads and so forth. And so it was thoroughly discussed yesterday, so I'm going to continue with that support of the motion as it stands.
Yes.
Yeah, I believe I've made a motion to amend to include Mr. Leggett on this committee. And while I don't think a second's required on the amendment, I would certainly defer to a second, but I think maintaining balance on this committee is extremely important, and I truly recommend that we amend this resolution to include Mr. Leggett. And I would, before my proposed amendment is dismissed, I would ask that you call for a second.
Okay. Is there a second to the amendment to the?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Supervisor Runyon. To add Mr. Liggett to Mr. Moore's previous position. Yes. Mr. Beatty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So what you're saying is that let's ignore the ARPA recommendation and their motion, completely ignore that, and now let's change it around. Is that what we're saying? That's it. Because remember, we voted at ARPA committee yesterday, very clear. It was voted on. This was what the resolution was. And now we're saying, nah, thanks ARPA, but now we don't care what you say. We're going to change it around here in personnel because that's how we want to do business. I just want to make sure. Is that what we're saying?
That's where we're at. Right here.
Okay, that's what we're saying.
Supervisor Dickinson.
I'm not on the committee, but I appreciate it.
You have to come up to the podium, please.
Thank you.
Just stay here. I really wasn't in favor of that. We have an issue on the ARPA committee getting quorum. We need some people on there with a reliable attendance record. And I think that Mr. Leggett is a very viable candidate to fill that position. And I don't see any reason not to fill it.
Supervisor Bramer.
Thank you. I guess I would like to ask, knowing that Mr. Leggett was at the meeting and understands that we are about to go through the process of reviewing all 84 applications together, each and every one of us, if he's available to do all of that work at this time, given his other responsibilities.
Yes, you may.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, in response to Supervisor Bramer's question there, at the meeting yesterday, there was confusion because I did sit in the seat for the administrator. I did not vote. I did not take a position on that. But when you're dealing with $12.4 million and a committee that's pulled together to appropriate that money, that is then responsibility of the administrator's office and the legislative board's office to be able to make sure that those resolutions are worded correctly, they're put into the right budget codes. The county administrator has a function, whether they serve on the board or not, but it was brought up yesterday, should even the county administrator speak at that meeting because they were not part of the board, which is then kind of ignoring an important function of this office that I am sitting in just, temporarily. Perhaps if we word this resolution to include the county administrator with no name, acting and county administrator, because in several months, hopefully we'll have another administrator in there. Our committee will still be deliberating, deciding on where the money should go. And as we have seen and many times of when the whole board has said in a resolution such a name, and then that name no longer is effective, we have to come back to the full board to redress that original resolution. So on this one, perhaps you see the function of the office and perhaps an ability to speak at the board meeting, have it be the acting committee or the full. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Chairman. I didn't hear Mr. Leggett answer my question. I think that what happened with the ARPA committee is that we appointed particular people to serve in these roles on the committee to help walk through the 12 million. There's never been That was never my intent yesterday to say that you couldn't speak. I wanted to be clear that you were speaking as administrator, asking for clarification versus speaking as a supervisor when you're not on the committee, which is what I'm trying to do today as well. In any event, my question wasn't answered, and I don't think we should just blanketly put on the administrator. Yes, they have a function in every meeting, but they don't sit on these committee meetings, that person. So I think if we're going to appoint Mr. Leggett, we should appoint him. If we're not going to, that's fine too. That's not what the committee wanted. They wanted a smaller committee.
Supervisor Conover?
Yeah, first of all, I have a real problem with committees promulgating their own ranks. This committee was created by the Board of Supervisors. It's twice in front of us today.
Correct.
These decisions on these appointments are not made by the committee. They're made by the Board of Supervisors. And I think that the suggestion by the acting county administrator that the position be listed as the acting county administrator or county administrator is a good one, because we don't know how long this committee is going to continue to operate. So I would be willing to amend. I'm suggesting we amend my amendment to include the acting or county administrator, whichever it sits in the seat. So I would offer that as an amendment to the motion.
Okay, so the amendment proposal to the original motion is to now just have the position of county administrator versus being specific to Mr. Leggett. Mr. Chairman, do you have a comment?
Runyon would have to second. She seconded the original motion.
Okay, just a second. Supervisor Runyon, is that agreeable?
You're muted, Debbie.
So are you suggesting you're just changing the title, like from?
Yes, instead of being specific to Mr. Leggett, it would just be the county administrator or acting administrator position.
Yes, I'm in agreement with that.
Okay. So discussion on the amended amendment. Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, the committee cannot change the size of that. The committee doesn't have the right. It has to be the full board of supervisors. So they cannot delete positions or add positions to that committee.
Okay, so I'm going to call the question on the amendment to the original proposal.
Would you read that back again? What the amendment?
Okay. The original proposal was to appoint Tricia Rogers, I believe from the Adirondack Regional Chamber of Commerce, to fill the vacancy by Mr. Biddle. And the second part of the proposal was to delete Mr. Moore's, our previous county administrator's position from the committee. The amendment that was just voted on and or will be voted on. Did we vote on that? No. The amendment to that proposal is to just not to delete the position and to make it generic to the county administrator position. So I'll call the question on the amendment. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
I'm opposed.
One opposition? Okay, on the original, which is now the amended proposal to appoint Tricia Rogers and the county administrator position. Any discussion on that? I'll call the question on that. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. Anything else for the Personnel Committee? Yes, Mr. Beatty.
Yeah, I'd just like to make a comment. I was elected to bring common sense to this board. At least that's how I interpret the vast majority of Queensbury citizens who voted me in. When we have supervisors make comments that people are obstructionists or having healthy conversation and debate is absolutely embarrassing to that individual. This is what democracy is about. You have two-way discussions on issues and you compromise. You come to a conclusion, you compromise. And to say we all have to be lemmings and go over the cliff and vote the same way, that's insulting. It's insulting to the people in Queensbury. It should be insulting to everybody in the county. So, you know, I'm sick and tired of hearing you got to vote this way, you got to vote that way. And if you don't, you're an obstructionist. That's embarrassing to the supervisor who mentioned that. I won't even mention his name. But I will continue to represent the people of Queensbury in a fair and honest manner and do it with common sense and due diligence. And if that goes against the certain supervisors on this board, well, then it goes against it. But I'm going to do my job in the best I can and the best ability I can. And so for any further discussion on that, that should be a moot point. But that's my position. And I will not always vote with the vast majority just because I quote, got to vote with the vast majority because that's the way it's supposed to be. A vote what's best for the people of Queensborough. Thank you.
Thank you. Privilege of the floor, public comments. Yes. Please state your name for the record, please.
Bob Flack for William Henry. I just want to thank you for moving this forward. I have to agree that it's a very important position. We needed to act on it. The economy seems to be not as good. So the advertising, we have full confidence in the tourism department, but we do need that leader. And I want to thank Gene and the tourism department for doing moving it forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lehman, is there any comments online that?
Hi, Chairman Thomas. No, there's nothing online.
Okay. Being nothing else, motion to adjourn, moved by Mr. Conover, seconded by Supervisor Frazier, Supervisor Runyon. Well, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.